All right, today we're going to get a little weird. We're diving headfirst into this philosophical labyrinth. It's from a really bizarre text that, get this, puts existence itself on trial. So yeah, let's step into the courtroom.
And boom, right out of the gate, we get this question from what seems to be a lava monster's tentacle. It totally sets the stage. We're about to witness this incredibly surreal interrogation of life itself. And just to be clear, this isn't a story with a plot. It's more like a philosophical cross-examination.
So, the court is officially in session. And who's the defendant? Nature, existence, the whole shebang. But the witnesses, oh man, the witnesses they call to the stand are anything but ordinary. They're abstract, they're strange, and they have a lot to say about the very fabric of our reality. Which brings us to the big question, right? Who or what are these witnesses? Are we talking about actual monsters? Are they just metaphors? Look, before we can even begin to unpack their testimony, we've got to figure out what they even represent. While they define themselves in some pretty abstract ways, they call themselves a collective consciousness or nature manifest, even voices from an unreality. So, you see, they're not really individuals in the way we think of them. They're more like fragmented pieces of a much bigger, much more chaotic whole. The best way to think about them? They're not characters. They're ideas that have been given a voice. Okay, so let's get to the first major argument. This is the prosecution's opening statement, if you will. And the central charge? The main accusation being leveled against existence? It's that existence is fundamentally randomly cruel.
And here's the testimony. One of the witnesses argues that its very being is just a product of utter luck. Think about that. No choice, no grand design, nothing. Just a chaotic roll of the cosmic dice in a completely random universe.
Now this is absolutely crucial. The nature we're talking about in this text, it's not some gentle Mother Earth kind of force. Not at all. It's portrayed as the indifferent background noise of the universe. It creates, it destroys, and there's no reason behind it. It just does it because that's its chaotic function. And what's really fascinating is how the text takes this idea and runs with it, way beyond just biology. It argues that even our societies, our cultures, all our structures, they're all powered by the same randomness crux. It's like this chaotic engine just roaring under the surface of everything we think we control.
All right, so the prosecution has laid its foundation. Randomness is at the heart of everything. Now the trial moves on, and the next witness to take the stand is consciousness itself. And let me tell you, its testimony brings up a huge paradox.
And here's the dilemma at the very core of it. If our existence is nothing more than a random accident in a chaotic, suffering-filled universe, then why are we aware of it? What's the point? Is consciousness a gift that helps us understand, or is it just a curse, a mechanism for torture? The witness basically asks, what good is consciousness if you're helpless? Imagine being aware of your own suffering, unable to move or change anything for thousands of years. The text doesn't call this a gift, it calls it nigh torture. So the trial really lays out a stark choice for us. On one hand, is consciousness a tool for logic, for understanding? Or, on the other hand, is it a burden, a trap that just makes us feel every bit of an ocean of misery and makes us hyper-aware of how hopeless our situation is? Okay, now it's time for the defense. Or, what passes for a defense in this pretty bleak courtroom. And their next argument, it challenges something we all tend to hold pretty dear, the idea of free will. Their plea, essentially, is that choice itself is just a big illusion. I mean, think about it. If the universe is just one long chain of cause and effect, kicked off by some random event billions of years ago, where does our choice actually fit into that picture? Are we really driving, or are we just passengers along for the ride?
This next quote is a heavy one. It basically suggests that determinism isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. It's the quiet, unseen reality of how things actually work. And that feeling we all have of making our own choices, our free will, well, that might just be the biggest illusion of all.
And this is where the text sets up this really fascinating conflict. You've got one side arguing that everything was set like a cue ball millions of years ago, that it's all just an invisible force, kind of like gravity. But then you have these other voices popping up, insisting that intention is all that matters, and that we should blame people who are able to choose. It's this fundamental clash between the laws of physics and our own sense of agency. So we've heard the arguments, we've talked about randomness, consciousness, and choice. And now we've arrived at the end of the trial. It's time for the final verdict, the text's unflinching judgment on the entire meaning of existence.
It's just one word: stark, absolute, and, yeah, utterly bleak. This is the ultimate judgment.
And the full thought really drives it home. It argues that, look, if everything is just predetermined and random, then what's the point? All our effort, all of life itself, everything in history and everything that's yet to come, it all just culminates in one thing: useless, hopeless waste. And this feeling of hopelessness, it shows up in a few different ways in the text. It's called a personal curse of inertia. It's called a merry-go-round of existential nightmares. It's presented as this unavoidable truth. So, what's the final piece of advice we get from these strange witnesses? Pretty simple, really. Just resign yourself to it all. So, here we are. After this wild journey through one of the strangest philosophical trials you could ever imagine, the final question gets turned back on us. The text has presented its case. It's called its witnesses. It's delivered its own grim verdict. But now, you're the jury. So if existence itself is on trial, what's your verdict?